Hello dear viewers, L hope you are fine. The day my father died, it felt like the world stopped breathing with me. I still remember standing in the rain outside the hospital, my hands shaking so badly I could barely hold my phone. My dad had been my safest place my entire life. After my mother passed away when I was 12, it was always just the two of us against the world. Until Vanessa came into our lives. She was elegant, polished, and always smiling in front of people. But behind closed doors, her kindness always felt rehearsed, like an actress reading from a script. Still, my father loved her. And because he loved her, I tried to ignore the coldness in her eyes every time she looked at me. After Dad's funeral, the house didn't even feel like home anymore. Vanessa changed everything within days. Family photos disappeared from the walls. My mother's piano was moved into storage. Even my father's favorite chair vanished from his office like he had never existed there at all. And then came the meeting with the lawyer. I sat across from Vanessa and my stepbrother Ethan inside a cold conference room while the lawyer adjusted his glasses. Nervously, "There was a will," he said carefully. "Your father left everything to his wife. Everything. The house, the company, the savings, even the lake cabin my dad promised would always belong to me." I laughed at first because it sounded impossible. My father would never leave me with nothing. Never. But Vanessa reached across the table and placed her hand over mine with fake sympathy. "Your father wanted peace before he passed," she whispered softly. "You should respect his final wishes." I felt shattered, not because of the money. Because it felt like my father had abandoned me. That night, I locked myself inside my apartment and cried harder than I ever had in my life. I replayed every memory, every conversation, trying to understand how everything changed so suddenly. Then I remembered something. 3 months before Dad died, we had dinner alone together while Vanessa was away on a business trip. He looked unusually serious that night. "If anything ever feels wrong after I'm gone," he told me quietly, "don't stop asking questions." At the time, I thought he was afraid of dying. But now, those words haunted me. The next morning, I went back to the family house to collect a few personal things. Vanessa wasn't home. Ethan barely looked at me as he scrolled through his phone in the kitchen. "You should move on already," he muttered coldly. Dad made his decision. Dad. He had only known my father for 8 years. I walked into Dad's office, now almost empty, and opened the bottom drawer of his desk. Most of his papers were gone. But tucked inside the back corner was a small silver key. And in that moment, something inside me told me my father hadn't left me behind. Someone was hiding the truth. And I was about to uncover it. Mid-conflict and betrayal. The silver key belonged to a safety deposit box at a small bank downtown. I almost didn't go. Part of me was terrified of finding nothing. Terrified that maybe Vanessa was telling the truth after all. But when the bank manager opened the box and stepped aside, my entire body froze. Inside was a sealed envelope with my father's handwriting across the front. "For Lily." My hands trembled as I opened it. Inside was another will, the real one. I could barely breathe while reading it. My father had divided everything equally between Vanessa and me. But more importantly, he had left controlling ownership of the company to me. There was also a handwritten letter attached. "Lily, if you are reading this, it means someone tried to hide my wishes from you." I trusted Vanessa once, but over time I began noticing missing money from company accounts. "If anything happens, take these documents to Daniel Harper immediately." Daniel Harper was my father's longtime business partner. Suddenly everything made sense. The rushed funeral, the fake sympathy, the pressure to accept the first will without question. Vanessa had hidden the real will. I drove straight to Daniel's office that afternoon. The moment he saw the documents, his face turned pale. "Oh my God," he whispered. He knew. Daniel explained that large amounts of money had quietly disappeared from company accounts over the last 2 years. At first, they believed it was accounting mistakes. But Dad had secretly started investigating before he became sick. And the signatures connected everything back to Vanessa and Ethan. I felt sick. Not only had they stolen from the company, but they had manipulated my dying father while he was too weak to fight back. That night, Vanessa called me unexpectedly. "I heard you visited the bank," she said calmly. My heart nearly stopped. "How did you know?" A long silence filled the phone. Then her sweet voice disappeared completely. "You should stop digging before you destroy yourself," she warned coldly. For the first time, I finally heard the real Vanessa. And honestly, she terrified me. But something inside me had already changed. The grieving daughter who cried herself to sleep was gone. Now, I wanted justice. Over the next few weeks, Daniel helped me gather evidence quietly. Financial records, transfers, forged signatures, hidden accounts. The deeper we looked, the uglier the truth became. Vanessa and Ethan had been planning this for years. They slowly isolated my father during his illness, controlled his medications, intercepted calls, even prevented some of his closest friends from seeing him near the end. And the fake will? It had been signed during the final weeks of his life when he was heavily medicated. I couldn't stop thinking about how lonely my father must have felt. How trapped. One evening, I sat alone in my apartment staring at his old voicemail messages just to hear his voice again. And that's when I realized something important. This wasn't about revenge anymore. It was about protecting the truth my father died trying to leave behind. So I hired an attorney. And finally, I filed the lawsuit. The moment Vanessa received the court papers, chaos exploded. She showed up at my apartment screaming that I was destroying the family. "You're greedy just like your mother," she yelled. I stared at her silently. Because after everything I had discovered, her words no longer had power over me. I simply looked her in the eyes and said softly, "No, Vanessa. I'm just my father's daughter." And for the first time since Dad died, I saw fear in her face. Ending, revenge, climax and moral. The courtroom felt colder than winter. Vanessa arrived dressed perfectly, pretending to be the grieving widow. Ethan sat beside her, avoiding eye contact with everyone. But this time, they couldn't control the story anymore. My attorney presented the real will first, then the financial evidence, then the forged signatures. One by one, the truth unfolded in front of everyone. I watched Vanessa's calm expression slowly crack apart as the judge examined the documents from the safety deposit box. And then came the final blow. Daniel testified that my father had privately expressed fears about financial manipulation before his death. He even revealed emails Dad had secretly sent him discussing changes to the will. Vanessa's lawyer tried to argue against it, but it was over. The evidence was overwhelming. The judge ruled the hidden will valid and ordered a full investigation into the missing company funds. Vanessa's face lost all color. Ethan looked completely broken. And suddenly, the people who once acted untouchable looked exactly what they truly were. Desperate. Within months, the company investigation exposed years of fraud. Vanessa lost nearly everything she had fought so hard to steal. Ethan quietly disappeared from the city after public records connected him to the financial transfers. And me? I finally walked back into my father's office again. Only this time, it belonged to me. I stood there alone one evening watching the sunset through the windows while holding Dad's handwritten letter in my hands. For so long, I thought winning would feel powerful. But honestly, it felt peaceful, because the greatest thing I recovered was never the money or the company. It was my father's faith in me. The truth survived. And so did I. Sometimes betrayal doesn't come from strangers. Sometimes it comes from the people sitting beside you at the dinner table, smiling while quietly destroying everything behind your back. But I learned something through all of it. People can hide documents. They can hide money. They can even hide the truth for a while. But eventually, the truth finds its way home. And when it does, no lie is strong enough to survive it.